So that's my new plan. Hello, welcome to the Small Gamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Streak Day. Honestly, I've forgotten. Stream Streak Day 28. Unreal. We have been here for 28 days in a row. Yeah, let's get it on. I can't wait for day 80. And I am live on Twitch and Facebook. Big shout out to you guys. And if you're listening to the podcast or you're watching back on YouTube, I hope you guys are well. And I'm joined today by Mr. Darren Watson. What up?
Hello.
How are you?
How you doing, lovely? You well?
Great. Thanks so much for asking. That's very nice of you.
Can I shout out? Is it Daniel White?
100%. DW.
Over Twitter.
D-Dog.
A chat called. Yeah, no, Daniel White.
D-Dog.
I think it's Daniel White.
I call him D-Dog. Sorry. Like
D-Dog. Oh right, okay. I thought you were talking to me. That's what people call me. Another D-Dog. That's great. Apparently, every time I say "hello, lovely" on the Darren's List Diaries, his little one starts giggling. So this is a special "hello, lovely" to his little one.
Let's do it. Let's a moment of silence and let's hit him with their "hello, lovely." Ready? 1, 2.
Hello, lovely.
There you go. I tell you what.
But that's so sweet.
That's really nice. Started off my day real nice. So thanks very much, Darren. So if you guys have joined us live, like the Hobby Hobo, whatever going on, Winner Dave, War Master MJ Pegasus, Virulent, welcome to the show. Now I don't want to jinx it, Darren, but this might be the very first show where we got the internet. That
right. Okay.
To quote my friends, that hot tip. Yeah. I don't know if you're up into that sort of culture and you enjoy those sorts of. You on the hot tip?
No, not at all.
Good. All right. Well, before we get started with a Darren's List Diary live, so feel free to ask Darren any questions you want on the Twitch chat. I should be able to see you. I just want to say big thank you to everyone on the Patreon. You guys are fucking rad. You're helping me do this for a living. Appreciate you. Long time for life. And also...
Oh, yeah, I was watching that when you did a little thing for your internet, didn't you? And have you got to do a 24-hour stream now?
So this Saturday, so if you go on the Honest Sport Gamer Twitter and Facebook, there is now a list of what's on all week. So tomorrow, it's you and me chatting. Today, it's you and me chatting. Obviously, tomorrow, it's me and a guy called Val and a guy called Peter and a guy called Mr. Benjamin Bonar. He's a pretty famous dude. We're going to be talking about the top 40k players in a kind of traditional American style roast. Wednesday, that's very fun. Wednesday, I'll be talking Beasts of Chaos with, I think I just saw him in the chat, Mr. Joel McGrath. I'm very much looking forward to that because I've decided I'm into Beasts of Chaos now. I don't know how it's happened, but it just happened because of Beaster, because of the Beaster weekend.
Oh, definitely tune in for that.
That's fun. Thursday, I'm talking to the guys from Mantic Games. Friday, mystery guest. Saturday, mystery guest. Just waiting for someone to. Well, I'm waiting for someone to confirm. So I wanted to get the schedule up. So don't be too hype about it. It could be anyone. And then on Saturday, we're streaming for 12 hours on Saturday for the Games Workshop live stream reveal. Whatever they reveal, I think it's going to be Gargants. And then we're just going to stream for 12 hours straight on Saturday, hanging out as a big thank you to everyone. So I'm hype as shit. It's going to be a great week.
That was wonderful. Yeah, well done, guys.
Well done, everyone. Yeah, because we're now operating on the new internet, so let's hope it works. Right. Anyway,
this is the first time, isn't it?
First time. You're taking the internet virginity, Darren. I can't think of a man who would do it better than shouting "horsey, horsey."
Riding cowboy. Yeah. Am I in the middle this time, or am I moving to the left?
You're doing great. You're doing great. Yeah. You're not like.
Because I can't see, you see, you bastards. If you're taking the piss out of me in chat like you were last time, I'm going to be livid.
All right, I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Hobby Hobo, I see you. Default, I can't sleep, so good morning, mate. Morning, Mr. Tej, what up, War Master? Asks how the chickens are doing, Darren.
Oh, so one of them's passed away.
Oh. Mate, I'm so sorry.
So we introduced Olga and Vera. They were two old hens rescued from a primary school because they'd stopped laying eggs and they needed a bit more extra care. So we offered to take them on. And then there were chicken wars. When you introduce new chickens to chickens, they get a bit aggressive until the pecking order is established. And Vera and Olga were doing well. Chicken walls were all over. And then I woke up the other day to sort the chickens out, and Olga had passed away, bless her. So we're down to five. We're down to five, but Vera's now fully integrated. And sometimes the stress of the move, they're quite fragile chickens, and sometimes the stress of the move can get to them. Unfortunately, I got to Olga. So it's always doom and gloom with me, isn't it? You don't know what you're going to get, like you said yourself.
Chickens emotionally fragile. I did not know that.
Yeah, they're a good pet for me.
Oh. Now I want it. I desperately want some chickens. I've been trying really hard to convince during the lockdown. I've now turned my outside. I planted for the first time in my life. This is obviously not Warhammer related. I'm sorry, everyone. But for the very first time, I planted some plants in my life, and some sprouts popped up the other day. And I now basically think I'm like fucking Gaia. Yeah, I'm like, look at these mighty plants. They're like this big, like teeny tiny. Yeah, and I'm like, I am king of the land. Yeah, like I've got a flat cap on order, a tweed suit, basically a landed gentry at this point. And now I imagine having a chicken coop and just keeping them in there, and not for eggs or anything, just for the aesthetic. Just for the aesthetic.
I advise anyone to get some chickens. They're great fun. They do shit everywhere, but once you get past that and you're on top of it, it's not so bad. But they're wonderful creatures, and it's really nice seeing them because the sun's out now. It's really nice seeing all five of them just sort of chill out and sunbathe and stuff in the garden. We shouldn't call this show Darren's This Diaries, should we? We should just call it Darren's Diaries.
Yeah. Right, hold on. I want to get into that. I want to say a big shout out to Crazy Horse, who's just donated 5 gift subscriptions. So thank you loads. I'm trying this week at some point to hit 100 viewers. I think that would be a nice thing. Like, I don't really care how many people turn up. It's just nice people do. But it would be cool one day to. Sometimes when we do the Monday evening shows or the other shows, we've hit those numbers. But I'm just aiming once this week is my aim, and those subscriptions have just been muchly appreciated. So thank you, Crazy Horse. You're an angel.
Crazy. Change it to Horse.
Well, you know Crazy Horse. Do you know?
Do I?
Yeah, you
Go
do.
on.
Anti Plutocrastro, fantastic human being. In my opinion, he's like leading the way with 3D printing like terrain kits, which aren't being designed. I don't think they're being designed by himself, but like he posts them all over Twitter. So if you want to get into those,
and they're quality as well, aren't they? They're quality. That's
really good, really good. Because when I was last year in NashCon in Nashville at NashCon, I got to meet. In fact, actually, Anthony doesn't know this, but he knew that I love flannel, so he bought me a jacket, and here it is, and I wear it every day. Like, in fact, I'm going to message him because it's my favourite jacket, which is a really terrible thing to say. Like, as an adult man, I've never been able to buy a jacket that I've liked more than one that a man gifted me because he didn't want it.
Well, he's got a wonderful beard game, isn't he? So I'm very. Can't grow facial hair.
Yeah. Well, so I would like to ask everyone in the chat. Would everyone be up for just Darren's Diaries? We're just gonna sometimes we'll talk Warhammer. Because sometimes we could talk Warhammer. I think that'd be good. Anyway, Darren, so you've not been great because of the dead chicken. I'm so sorry about that. But it does. It really does. How's the lockdown? Are you doing okay? And question to the chat as well. How are you all doing?
I'm not so fast. Luckily, I've got hobbies, right? I can paint. I can play Blood Bowl 2 online. I can play Hearthstone. I can annoy my girlfriend by making her nose a pig, which I'm finding really funny at the moment. But she is not. Alex is really struggling. She's a really outdoor girl, and she's really struggling with the lockdown. She started day drinking, and I'm thinking. It's only once or twice, but I've got to nip that in the bud right. I don't want that to become a problem, bless her. She tried to put, we've got a bunny, Pinot, and
Pinot Grigio.
She came, yeah, our rabbit's called Pinot, and she brought him in the other night after falling asleep after drinking wine all day in the garden, and she came in and she went, "Oh, have you put Malbec? Have you put Malbec in the garden? Is he out in the garden?" And I was like, "No, Malbec's our tortoise." I was like, "No, he's in his vivarium. She went, all right. And then she proceeded to open the vivarium, tried to put the rabbit, Pinot, inside. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, oh, I don't know. So yeah, that was quite joyful to see. So I think she's going a bit stir crazy, but I'm loving it. I've watched all of the Ozark. Have you seen that on Netflix? If you haven't, you really should.
No.
It's really good.
So I have been not enduring. I was made to watch Downton Abbey.
What? What?
Yeah.
You're going mad, mate.
No, I obviously not my choice. And
Okay.
and to answer everyone's question, yes, I absolutely fucking loved it. Um, uh, because most people won't know this, but as a young man, when you think, what do you want to do when you grow up? So when I was really young, the two things I wanted to be, now I don't know why, and this is quite personal, I wanted to be a butler. Because I think butlers are cool, right? Like when they're those like they're almost smarter than the Lord. They're like, "You're very good, sir," and then they go off and go, "What a fucking idiot!" Like that guy.
If I was going to be a butler, I'd want to be the butler in Mr. Deeds. Have you seen that? I am.
Yeah. Or for some reason, I wanted to work in a quarry. I just felt like it was very. That traditional work ethic of an English man. It's like, oh, I'll smash stones in the quarry as a man and go home and eat me butties. Yeah, I don't know why. I had
Some real aspirations as a child.
I really wanted to hit the stars as a child. No astronaut for me. No doctor. Work in a quarry. And I saw those as noble jobs, right? And then when I turned 18, I was a doorman, which was, I realised in post was kind of similar. I would dress all in black and then hit people. So like it kind of like it was like I hit things. So it was like close enough. Anyway, we are really.
I like it.
Ren Zephyr says one of my neighbours was the Queen's butler for a while. Holy shit! It's probably got more than one.
Oh, they must have some stories.
Yeah.
Get some dirt on Liz.
Yeah, please do. You are the butler of Warhammer, the Honest Wargamer. Oh dear. After you, sir. Right, I've been watching Joe Rogan getting angry at the conspiracy theorists as the hobby homer. It's fantastic. Please watch the one with Alex Jones. It's the best. I didn't come here for Warhammer. I came here for Darren's animal stories. So yes to Darren's Diaries. Good. All right. But we are gonna do some lists today, right? Because we got challenged last week. What did we decide to do and why?
We're going to do a Legion of Asgard, aren't we? Because you wanted to. Well, I think you wanted to do it, or someone else challenged me to do it. And in this journey, I think there's some nice lessons on list building in general. But this is mainly your show. You're going to. This is for you. You can talk us through. I mean, I've got one, and it's pretty fucking dull, to be honest. But like I say, I think there are a couple of good lessons in here in list building in general. And then hopefully you've got something that's a bit more exciting and you can tell us about your experiences with them, because I've never actually used them. Shall we jump into some lists?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get your list up. So what do you decide to call your list?
Time to Kadai.
Time to Kadai. There we go.
There's a clue in there in what we've got. So it's Legion of Asgore. Is that how you pronounce that? God, so bad with pronunciations. A demon smith, because he's the best hero that they've got available to him. He's a general with a dark forged weapon, a command trait. He's grotesque. Artifact armor of fucking unpronounceable name, the Cruel.
Bazarak the Cruel.
Bazarak.
I really enjoyed telling people about that at tournaments. I'm like, he's got the armor of Bazarak the Cruel, and then people would look at me and be like, it's a 5-up DPR, and they'd be like, okay.
Of the choices, I've not gone for any realm items because they're probably fucking off, aren't they? Next season. Mm-hmm. Then one thing that is good about Legion of Asgore is their access to so many different allies. You're kind of spoilt for choice. It's a shame that the best thing about the army is units and other armies.
Can I touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Darren's right. I've run this army for like a straight year. I've used, I think, most iterations of it. Uh, and while Darren's absolutely right that the allies that you can ally in are always magnificent. That's because, as we probably when we go and do Smorgan's Mixed Chaos show, you are spoiled for choice in the Chaos Grand Alliance. Like we talked a little bit yesterday about, but like I did a Twitter thread with the best units in the game, pound for pound, like
Yeah.
most efficient stuff, and obviously Croak came up a lot. So if you could ally Croak into any army, he's great. But then if you could ally the Boost Scribes into any Order army, you would probably, or yeah, exactly. So or even Gaunt Summoners on Discs, stuff like that. So you're right. But they also the Legion of Asgore also have inside of Chaos two very unique elements to, well, three, I guess, if you take the sorcerer, but they have two very unique elements to them which you can't find in the rest of the chaos, the Grand Alliance chaos, effectively, in my opinion. And in fact, actually, maybe even a third thing, if you wanted to, they're fairly tanky. Like a 4-up armor save, army wide, is actually pretty rare. There isn't a lot of, like, Nurgle's got like a good after damage saves and minuses to hit, but one of the good other things about the army is it's fairly defensive. It's like playing against Iron Jaws. It's a 4-up armor save, everywhere you go, apart from obviously the Kadai when we touch on those. But yeah, they've got, in my opinion, three unique things. They've got the amazing shooting from the Fireglaves. They've got Kadai Fireborn. And they've got like a tankiness to them, which I think is great. So yeah, there we go.
Well, and this list I've got is demonstrates most of those. There, absolutely. So the ally choices that I've gone for are Festus the Leech Lord and the Blue Scribes, because I quite like how they interact with each other and what Festus can do for the army. I've then got 30 Infernal Guard Fireglaves, 10 Infernal Fireglaves, 10 Infernal Fireglaves, 12 Kadai, 12 Kadai, a Balewind Vortex, Geminids, because fuck 'em, why wouldn't you? And then a Soul Screen Bridge. So it's quite, there's nothing too tricksy in here. There's nothing too interesting, let's say. But let's see how I sort of arrived at this. So the point of this was to try and make the best Legion of Asgore list, wasn't it? Like the something that would have the best chance at winning games or doing well at a tournament. And I tried for ages doing something that was interesting, and there just isn't a great deal there. And I was trying to think of why that's the case. So we'll start with the battle traits themselves. So firstly, they've got black shard armor, so they can ignore a wound, can't they? If you've got black shard armor, you can ignore the first wound in the shooting phase and the first wound in the melee phase. And that's pretty good, isn't it?
Each unit takes.
Yeah. And that's going to save you some chaos dwarfs. So that's not shit, and it helps your characters out, makes your characters a bit more tanky, doesn't it? And then Burning Skies, which is if an enemy flyer moves more than 6 inches, on a 4+ they suffer a mortal wound, and then on a 6 they suffer a D3 mortal wounds. And then they've got a Fireball spell. All the wizards in Legion of Asgore cast on a 5. Pick a visible unit within 18 inches. On a 1, if it's a single model, it takes a mortal wound. If it's got 2 to 9 models, it takes D3. And if it gets 10 more models, it takes D6 mortal wounds. And then that's it. And that is rubbish.
Well, so actually, the black shard armor thing where you ignore a wound. It sounds rubbish until you get to the right characters. So like when you're talking about you'll see in my list when you're talking about your Bull Centaur Torok, the ability to ignore a wound every phase, every shooting phase and every combat phase is really important in conjunction with that 5+ DPR. It makes him actually fairly survivable. And then also if you so one of the things that I did, and you'll see in my list, I go for individual 10s of Fireglaves. Now, that's problematic in a world of a lot of endless spells, which is why I tended to never really do it. because obviously if they fire through like 3 or 4 units, you're going to be taking multiple D3s, which is way worse than just having a block of 30, taking 1 D3 and then suffering more damage later. So that's why it's either big blocks of 30 or 10s, but it comes into effect more than you think. Like, it's 2 or 3 wounds here or there, and especially on when units like Kadai, it's really, really important that, because if you lose a Kadai by a wound, you lose 5 attacks. So yeah, they're genuinely, it's good. Now the Burning Skies is an absolutely trash allegiance ability. I'm not going to lie to you,
Yeah.
but
Well, go on.
people play really fucking stupid because of it. So it's a really unique ability, right? What people should basically do is, if you play against someone with it, you should basically go, cool, I'm just going to ignore the fact that I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I've seen people move more crushers only 5.9 inches instead of 12. Like,
are they good players though?
I've seen some decent-ish players make some mistakes as well, like or some really interesting things. So a very, very good player. So our friend Giannis from Greece. Like, when I played against him, he was playing Seraphon. Seraphon command ability was it allowed everyone within a certain range to fly. Yeah. And so what he would normally do is he would build a castle of skinks, characters, and razordons, and he would kind of bunny hop at them over each other to create this kind of like unpeeling onion. But now he couldn't do that because he couldn't make them all fly. Because as soon as they started to fly, they started taking a bit of chip damage here and there potentially, and so he elected not to do it. So I don't think that was a bad decision on his part, but it does mean he didn't play exactly how he wanted that list to play.
I think when I say it's rubbish, I'm talking about top end stuff, and it's rubbish compared to what else is available. It's not Khorne making Archeon attack in the hero phase, is it? It's not Tzeentch summoning. It's not Seraphon, allegiance abilities. So my point is, you've got to recognise that the value isn't in the battle traits. The value then is in the war scrolls. If you're trying to make your list as efficient as possible. So I agree with you. Of course, it has its uses. They're free rules, aren't they? Right? But they're not. You're not going to. The strength of what's available to you isn't in your battle traits. So then you have to recognise that the strength is in the war scrolls.
Yeah,
does that make
100%.
sense?
And I think this conversation that we can have today is more about good list design than it can be about the actual army. Because I agree with you. Like, there's no other bonuses. It's kind of like how you build your list. Is there that key unit, Hearthguard Berserkers, that you want to make something better around? Is there that key unit that you can just spam? Eels. Is there that allegiance ability that you want to take a huge advantage of? I'd say probably Exalted Conflagration from Tzeentch is a good example of that. Okay, they make Flamers battle line. They make everything -1 rend. That's a good allegiance ability. Or is there like just war scrolls that just have very inherent value, and you want to build into that? Sometimes it's a mixture of both, of all of those things. But this one, it's definitely not because of the battle traits. It's not because of the sub-faction or the allegiance abilities that you get in it. So that's a good point.
Yeah, 100%. So that's the point. So that's the starting point, is recognizing how you're going to build your list, right? And I recognize that this isn't something worth it. They're nice rules, but they're not going to win you games, right? So then you want to. That's why the list is pretty dull. It's got all the most. So the battle line choices. The reason I've just gone for Fireglaves is because they're the most efficient point for point unit compared to the foot sloggers. I think their shooting and their ability to. So what they do is they've got a 16-inch shot, hits on 4s, wounds on 4s, and if you roll a 6, an unmodified 6 to hit, they will do a mortal wound, and you get, for free, if you don't move, you get to reroll 1s to hit, and that is good. You said yourself that is decent. A unit of 10, you can expect to do 2 mortal wounds at range, so that's a really good finisher. A unit of 30, you can expect to do 6 mortal wounds at range, plus all the other bits and bobs that you've got going on. So they're the most efficient
So
unit.
I actually think that
Um,
the Infernal Guard Fireglaves are one of the best units in the game.
hmm.
Um,
Yeah, they're very
like they're
really good.
outrageous. 4 up armor save. They've also got an attack in combat. Like that's not anything to shout home about. It's just one attack each, 4s and 4s. But yeah, that shooting attack, which is admittedly fairly short range, but it feels super thematic. But also, if you build it right, because what you're really trying to do with this army most of the time, in my opinion, is you're trying to make your opponent have to go somewhere, and so that you unload not just 30 shots, but you just so when I was at Adepticon, I ran 70, maybe 80, I
Mm.
think was the list at one point. I flirted around with the Fireglaves. I was always like, do I, as you've done here, take 12 Kadai? Do I take 24 Kadai? Do I take 3 Ball Centaur Torques? What do I do? And when they compare to the Magma Cannons, which is in the list, which they've got an ability to do potentially 6 mortal wounds, but they cost 160 points, where now you're getting 16 effectively, because they're effectively 10 points each, 16 Fireglaves for the same points. No question, the Fireglaves are
Mhm.
better. Score your objectives, they're a wound a pop, board control, and they statistically will do more mortal wounds over a game. The only thing they don't do is have long range threat. That's the main issue.
Yeah, yeah, which is why we've got the Soul Screen Bridge in there to try and sort of counter that a little bit. But yeah, they're the most efficient use for your points in your battle line. Originally, I wanted to talk about Death Streakers and Magma Cannons, and the point of this, I had loads of those instead of the Kadai in there, and you were going to jump your bridge across, and then you were going to blast them with all the wood and waterfall war machines. But I wanted to make it quite interesting. But when you run the math, they do very little. They do fuck all.
They do, yeah, they
Um,
absolutely don't do it. Like, it's just when you compare them, and it's quite an interesting thing about War Machines because Games Workshop, and if you look at War Machines in the game or any long range shots, Games Workshop have had a real struggle with writing them either too well or
yeah,
terribly. And in the Legion of Asgore version, they've written them medium, but they don't really do anything.
came out. I think when they first came out, they were fine. But the power creep that we've had since, I mean, how old is this tome now? Is it a
It's as
year, two
old as the
years?
Stormcast Eternals book and the Nighthawk book.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
it's ancient, right? So it's they don't do anything in today's meta, today's standard. They don't do anything to Mortek Guard. They don't do anything to fucking Chaos Ascendant. They don't do anything to fucking anything, do they? Whereas before when they first came out, I think perhaps they were okay. And again, it's recognizing that although you want to talk about something cool and you want to have these lovely models in your list, they're just they're just not good enough. Which is why they don't make it, and which is why the Kadai do make it because they're just efficient. They're just value, aren't they? 480 for 60 wounds. That's nuts. Isn't it? But what they don't have is rend. So if we sort of so there are a couple of plays in this list that you can do, but it is boring and dull because it's designed to be as point efficient as possible, basically to make it's a bad faction. I know you love them a lot, but it's not a good faction, is it? You don't see it winning many events. You don't
Well,
hear
so
about people
it's
taking
actually
it.
I don't agree with that. I think it's actually it requires a good pilot, absolutely. But unlike some of the other factions like Sylvaneth, I'd absolutely agree that I think you would really struggle to win an event with Sylvaneth. Um, but I actually don't agree that it would require. Um, I think you can go 4-1 with this army most of the time, 3-2, 4-1 most of the time, and there's the opportunity to win an event. And that's not just me. So Jake LeCure over in America, so he's one of the Detroit boys. He's gone 4-1. I think he's even gone 5-0 in the past year with this army. And we also have seen over Gabe over in Australia. There was someone else in Australia as well, and I'm a bit of a dick for not knowing. But someone else in Australia as well. So it's not so much. So you've kind of got that split like you do at any event where you've got someone who, let's talk about Cities of Sigmar. They're an amazing army to paint, build up, and play. But really, if you're talking about like spec'd out Cities of Sigmar armies, you're talking about the Halahart build. You're talking about the Tempest Eye build. You're talking about that specific way it obnoxiously plays. Now, but there's still a lot of them, and that's true also for the Asgore players. There's a couple of them who just run around and fuck about, which is cool, and they're having a great time. But this army can go 4-1, and it sometimes can go 5-0. You just got to get the right matchups.
Put it another way then. If your life depended on winning an event, this would not be in your top 10.
It wouldn't be in my top 5. It might be in my top 10.
So, well, that's just my opinion. You know, it doesn't.
Sorry. Just to shout out the Australian counterpart was Reese. So thank you. It was Reese who did it. Yeah.
I mean, there are always going to be some perverts out there that like to do well with fringe shit. I mean, I love to do well. The accolades are there, aren't they? The pride's there. People do it for the love. I think people do this are trying to make a statement that they're a really good player.
I was.
No, that's true,
it's
isn't
okay.
It? But if you
personally attacked and absolutely agree, yeah.
Yeah. But if you had everyone, every very good player using this, you would. And it's lower down. Right? For me, it's lower down. So you're trying to when you're designing your lists and you don't have a great deal to work with, then that's why you work with the most efficient things. And this is what I feel is. But like I say, there's a couple of little tricks in here. So firstly, the Soulscream Bridge is in there to fix the range of the Fireclaves. They're very slow, aren't they? And if you move, you lose that reroll ones ability, which is great. And the Soulscream Bridge means that once you pull across, you don't count as moving, and you increase your threat range from 20 to I don't know, I can't figure it out on the fly, but you over double it, don't you? And that in itself is wonderful. That's why the blue scribes are in there as well, because if you're centering one of your main strategies around the Soulscream Bridge, you need to make it go off. And there are very few bonuses to cast in Legion of Asgore. In fact, there are none. You can ally in a contorted, what's his bollocks? The weird mirror.
Yeah.
I looked at that originally. But it's just a reroll to cast, and your opponent can easily, not 9 times actually, but they could potentially unbind it, right? Whereas the blue scribes has got an ability where on a 2+ you can cast a spell in your hero phase, and it just gets cast, and your opponent can't stop it, which gives you an 82% chance of that Soulscream Bridge going off, which is much better than anything else that's available to the Legion of Asgore. So if you're centering your strategy around the Soulscream Bridge, which this very much is, then you want to make sure that goes off as often as possible. So that's why the blue scribes are there. But I also like his interaction with Festus, which kind of solves another problem that the Kadai have. So the Kadai have got fucking loads of attacks, haven't they? And they've got a 3-inch reach, and they do D3 damage. There's a lot of damage there, potentially, but they don't have any rend.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a problem. Festus has got a spell. It is cast on the 7, so it is difficult to get off. But once you do manage to get it off, it minuses 1 to your opponent's armor save. And so that effectively gives you a Kadai Rend 1 or your Infernal Guard Rend 2, because their shots have got Rend 1. And once he's cast it, the blue scribes can learn it on a 4+. So then later on throughout the game, just cast it at anything initially, even if it's just a unit. If there's only a unit of 10 Ungor in range, fuck it. Cast it at them, hope the blue scribes learn it, and then later in the game, the blue scribes are going to be able to cast that on a 2+ to anyone. So it's really, I like how they interact. And that solves it doesn't solve the Kadai problem, but it makes them much better, I think. So that's why Festus and the blue scribes are in there, to try and solve some of the the problems that the infernal fireglaves have with their movement, and the Kadai have with the fact they don't have any range. So I quite like how they interact. Another thing the blue scribes can do is obviously can cast Geminids later in the game, and that's another -1 to hit. The Demon Smith's got a spell. What's the range on that? The Demon
36
Smith's
inches.
Spell? 36. I mean, that's fucking great. He is really, really good, or she is really, really good. I'm sure Lee's and the Vagabond are equal opportunities, right? They seem nice. So that could be -2. So those could die. How I envisage it, you jump. Another thing as well. Your opponent is incentivized to go. This list is quite good at dealing with, say, an Alpha Strike, because you can deploy it so deep, because you've got the Soul Screen Bridge that you're so your opponent is you're probably not going to get the choice to go first unless you're fighting perverts with loads of eels. But 9 times out of 10, I would suggest your opponent's probably going to have the opportunity to choose who goes first. And they're incentivized to go first, because if they don't, you're letting your 30 Infernal Guard jump through a bridge that are screened by 12 Kadai. And you could have put -1. That 36-inch range is going to be outside of people's unbind range. You can get yourself in a very, very comfortable position and project quite a lot of power right from the off. So they're incentivized to have to go first, which means that you need to double, and you've prevented them from doubling. So I quite like that you've got quite a consistent way of projecting power and getting in your opponent's head from the off. Does that make sense?
It makes loads of sense.
I don't think
Absolutely.
I'm not sure I don't explain that very well. So I do like any list where if your opponent has the choice but really doesn't have the choice of going first, and then if they do, you can really punish them. But again, how I envisage this is early doors. The blue scribes will cast Soul Screen Bridge. You'll jump 12 Kadai through, and then you'll have 30 Infernal Guard behind them. You've got your 10 Infernal Guards. They can be either protecting you, and then down another flank you can wing another 12 of you could die. Later on, Festus or the Blues giving -1 to their armor saves, and you're going to be casting Geminids through their on a 2+. And all that time they're going to have to deal with 120 wounds could die that you've got some minuses to hit. So I think that's a decent go at it anyway. I mean, how do you feel about that? Have a done?
Oh no, yeah, great. Like, and you've got people like Lee Bromley in the chat, another Asgore player, suggesting things like the Epitome as well. It definitely looks like I can see why the ally slot is super important. I used to obviously run the Zangor Shaman with the Wildfire Taurus, and then get some Always Strike last on a unit, and then hit them with the Kadai. So that was always good. That would add to their survivability. And then Lee's pointed out if you take the Epitome, obviously you'll be able to use their Locust because it's on their War Scroll, and do the same thing. So that's a good shout. And I like the idea that what you've done with Festus, for instance, is you've recognised the Kadai as being an incredibly unique and strong unit in the game. And then you have decided to double down on them, like we saw Andy Hughes do so well a couple of years ago with Festus, and support them, and then also to bring those Fireglaves together. So I think it's a great list, and I think it does really well. It's not dissimilar to exact lists I've run, like almost identical, with the exception of the allies. Right? I didn't.
It's not a great deal of choice. It's very clear what's good and what isn't.
Yes.
So,
well, should I talk about my list, and then you can see how I went about it. So,
I'll just make one final point on the Shaman and the Taurus, because I do think that's very good. But again, it just comes down to consistency. So this is, we want to maximise our chances of going 5-0, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't cast that Taurus. And that's 220 points. That's a lot of resource to sort of gear your sort of strategy around, or one of your plays around. I don't feel that was worth it over 5 games. Whereas I mean, I say that, but then I've included Festus in this one. But I wanted something interesting to talk about, so that's why I wanted to talk about the Festus and the scribes interaction here as well. And it's worth mentioning as well. I think Festus lowers your non save by 1, stops Bastillodons being 2 up unrendable.
Yep.
So that's quite a nice little trick as well. I think someone, when I was watching you take the piss out of me on the last one that we did, someone mentioned that in the chat, and I think that was a good point. Quite good there. But yeah, I'm done. I just think if you're gonna use a faction that isn't top tier, your best chance just go with and your aim is to win. Good as you can. Then your best chance is to just take the things that I mentioned, and then take any allies that boost them. So, although the list is a bit dull, I think the lessons that you can through that sort are quite relevant. Hopefully that was useful. Go on, yeah, let's run through your list.
Well, okay, so a big shout out to Deviant Dot, by the way, who's just joined the chat, and just saying hi to everyone who's here. Thanks for being here. So I think actually Legion of Asgore is like a masterclass in board control as an army. So it's like dynamically opposed to what you would see in MSU Eels, whereas MSU Eels have got that mobility, which the dwarves obviously lack because they're movement 4. And they've got the board control because of that movement. You obviously don't have that from the dwarves. All the dwarves have is bodies. Now, I'm like you, very much like with your list. One of the ways that I went about building my Chaos Dwarf list for a long time was I wanted to do something that I could either, if someone gave me the first turn, I had some long range threat that could do something. At one point, that was a War Mammoth. At one point, that was the bridge. At another point, that was the Wildfire Taurus. But ultimately, I think actually, as time went on, I started to move away from those elements. And the reason that I did that was because, like, I just, if you want to win a tournament, and this is a list that I've never ran, but I've ran close to it because it's boring as shit. Right? But it is, I think, genuinely a really good list. Is where you just you take the Kadai out. And so one of the guys, Daz Moore, who I saw yesterday, a couple of days ago, talking about the Kadai, and I've seen loads of people run them, and I've used them in events where they've done super well, and they've gone through units and they've won me games. They've held up 2 Vampire Lords on Zombie Dragons at the same time, but when I was at Adepticon, I had 2 amazing games. I played Sean, so Nuke Doctor from Detroit. I also played Tony P. And in both games, I was playing Flesh Eater Courts. And in both games, I think played incredible games. I'd moved my units to exactly where I wanted them to be. I'd got the engagement that I wanted, which was like their Ghoul King hit my Kadai first, which is pretty much the only thing I could orchestrate. Yeah. And then I got to hit them, and in both instances, the Kadai let me down. They either didn't do enough damage in the one shot that I needed to win the game, or they didn't survive long enough for me to be able to hit back. And so I gave them a couple of opportunities to perform at those clinch moments to win, and we all know that there's those clinch moments, right? Like you do the double stacking on, like the quadruple stacking on the eels, and it goes off, right? Like, yeah, like so you've got Death Frenzy on the Plague Monks, you've stuck them into combat, you're laughing, right? Like, whatever it might be. And so I've moved away from the Kadai because they don't, in the clinch moment, succeed. And so I went the other way, and I thought, I'm going to play like a traditional dwarf. I'm just going to move forward, yeah, control the board, and just keep firing my guns into the midfield, because there's probably nothing there's nothing you can throw at a Chaos Dwarf gun line in the first turn that it won't beat the shit out of by turn 2. Like, it will just, like, that's a lot of shots. So my list, I've gone for, so the bulk of it is, let me just get this right, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots of 10 Infernal Guard, so that's 60. Then there's another 20, so that's 80, and then there's another 30. Yeah, so it's 110, right? Which is almost 20 mortal wounds a turn, which is pretty great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
That is.
but the problem,
Can
so
what again? It's that value. You've just spammed the
yeah, oh
value in the
sorry,
list.
it's actually 120. I missed a cheeky 10 that I left off. And the reason for the individual 10s and the big block of 30, the big block of 30 is so that if I wanted to if I wanted to spend a CP on them and give them reroll ones to hit, let's say, because they've moved, then that's there. The 20, but
Yeah.
for me, this is all about how you build the board. And there's also a unit of 9 Untamed Beasts. There is a Gaunt Summoner on Disc of Zinch, and there's, yeah, sorry, thanks MJ Pegasus. And then there's a book.
Oh, that's what you sent me. Right, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
there's a Bull Centaur Turok, and there is a Demon Smith. Now, the Demon Smith, like you said, is incredible value. So it's 2 Demon Smiths. So the
So,
Demon Smith's
yeah.
incredible value, making something -1 to hit. But the other thing it's got for 100 points is a D3 Mortal Wound grenade it can do every turn, and
Yeah, that's the important thing, isn't it? It's not once a turn. It's
every turn, every
That's
turn
great.
in the shooting
Yeah.
phase. Now it's only 6 inches, but we're pretty much relying on our opponent moving into us. Now a really hard army for us to beat would be Flamers of Zinch. Really hard army to beat, but that's hard for anyone. So that's why there's those 9 Untamed Beasts there. I could potentially drop a unit of Fireglaves and get myself another block of Untamed Beasts as well, because I've also spent a CP. So I could potentially have 3 lots.
You've got Untamed Beast. You've got 12 units in there. I guess
Yeah.
you can.
So I could potentially have that, or I could have those 3 lots of Ungor Raiders as well, which do the same job. But effectively, what that does is that gives us enough breath on the first turn that we can run forward, go into the midfield, and sit on objectives, and then we can start trading shots because the midfield's close enough now. And then anyone that hits us. But there's also, and what's really nice with the Gaunt Summoner on disc, is there's 10 pink horrors that are going to come on the board as well. So I've got a two cost wizard from the Gaunt Summoner, which is cool. I've got 2 little mortal wound bombs and the Demon Smith. I've got Geminids, obviously, for throwing into the midfield. But then the Bull Centaur Torok is incredible. Like, this guy so he hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, Ren 2, 3 damage. You spend a command point, he hits on 2s, wounds on 3s, does 3 damage. Obviously, if you double up, which is why the command points are in there, because you're not really going to be spending command points on Battle Shock. Because what I used to have to do was save my command points to fly around following my Kadai, using it on their bravery test because they've got quite low bravery, really, so they can suffer there. So I would just run around chasing them. But now I'm just looking to double down on the Bull Centaur Torok, and all he's going to do is just go through units. I've seen he's like one-shotted like a Neferata, which is not overly hard, but one-shotting something in 1 round of combat is pretty.
That's
not bad at all. So because he potentially does 15 damage just from his axe. Yeah, that's right. 15 damage just from his axe, and then he does on the charge. He does D3 damage with his hooves, so it's another 4d3 potential damage. So he can do.
He is efficient.
Yeah, 160 points. But what's cool? You want something in the in your back line to hit out. Now this list is super dull. Like, it's 120 of the same fucking model, right? So it's like playing. No, so it's like
trying to win.
No, exactly. So like it's like you're playing Daughters of Cain. Or
or eels,
or eels, or anything else. Yeah,
no matter how pretty you make the bases, you're a boring fucker.
yeah, it doesn't matter what you do to make them cool.
I put some nails on my bases. I'm a narrative player.
So yeah, because the Kadai, like I say, the argument for the Kadai is they're an incredible unit. And you put them in any other army, and they genuinely get a look in. Someone's like, yeah, that's actually, I'd put that in my list. But also, I like the idea of this list in particular because it's super dwarfy, right? Trudge forward. So long range armies will cause an issue, but I think doubling down on what is a super boring mechanic. But like I say, in the shooting phase, is you on average are doing 20 mortal wounds, which is pretty great. If you're not moving, and then what you do with the pink after the first turn, you stick those pink horrors in front of your army, and then you start to use those to screen off. Use the Untamed Beast to screen. Use a couple of the little 10s to screen, and then just bring everything else to bear, and then just slowly walk forward. I'm not sure if it would It depends. Obviously, if someone gets a double into you, it's always an issue. You could build your screens in
Not
layers.
so much 10 horrors out there. I looked at putting 10 horrors in my list, and I just thought, if you're going to put 10, if you're going to use horrors, you may as well just use Lynch. But I agree here. That is for this, because it's all about giving yourself time to get as much shots off as possible. And pink horrors supply that, as do the Untamed Beasts, etc.
Yeah, it's just about board control, but in an incredibly dull way, just moving forward slowly. And it depends what battle plans you're playing as well. Like things like Star Strike, you probably just have to just rely on the luck of the fucking game. But your army's already pretty wanky, so like instead of making your army shittier just to try and get a bonus.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that. Play to your strengths. Don't always try to cover your weaknesses. Unless you can do that efficiently. But you should always be trying to play the strengths of your army, which is what your list does. It's maximising the value out of the shitty battle trait, isn't it? By having different units in there as well. So it protects you a bit from AoE, which I quite like.
Apart from it's a little problematic that endless spells will just wreck it, I think. And you don't really have any bonuses to stop them unless the demon smiths actually get wounded. They get +1 to unbind. So yeah, overall, not the most exciting list. Let's be honest, Twitch chat. Let's be honest, Darren. I'll include.
Is it? It's such a shame because they're such beautiful models, and they put all that effort into creating them, didn't they? Forge World, and the actual home itself seems half baked. It seems like they had some potential there, but then I guess they don't. How much effort do they want to put into it? I think know.
You could probably point that finger. Like, I mean, how many times have we said eels in this one show and never said the word eidolon? Like, there's a sensationally beautiful set of models that just never seen the fucking light of day, nor will they. So the game is generally full of that deep imbalance.
Yeah.
But normally, inside battle tomes, especially the more recent ones, the Save Darkness book especially, you have ways to improve those, so actually you give yourself a fighting chance. But unfortunately, these guys don't have that. Apart from, like you said, bring an ally in. So
they are old. They are old, aren't they? So that's probably why. If they get an update, they need to put a bit. Well, they don't need to do anything, do they? But I would like to see, if they do get an update, some in the battle traits that need some looking at.
Just some factions.
And yeah, and more spells, obviously, because it can be done. Because look at the general handbooks, they had 3 guilds, Seraphon before, and they all had full-on fucking command traits, etc. Why can't they do it for these guys? They've got such a wonderful model range. I don't know why they wouldn't want us to support. I'd like to see more of them on the tables, wouldn't you? Definitely.
Yeah.
Certainly the bulls, the centaurs, they're such great models, aren't they?
They are, but if you compare the centaurs to, and obviously, like Darren said earlier, like the time at which this was written, so you need to take that into account. But if you compare these even close to something like Gore Grunters, they don't even touch Gore Grunters. It's embarrassing, and they cost more, which is just wild. They're not even close to Blood Crushers or Skull Crushers.
Which is why I'm bothered trying to make work, right? Because they just wouldn't. There's no way they would. There's no way with other lists out there. Whereas the shooting's got a chance, I would say.
Well, so what's really good about it is all of the shooting also has rend. So I don't need to cast a spell. So you're looking at 120 shots with rend. So you hit with 60. You do 20 additional mortal wounds, which is nice, and then 30 wound dice with rend 1 a turn is pretty nice. which is fun. And they got a 4-up armor save. That's the other thing. They stick around. Little blocks of 10. They're on 25mm bases. You can get them in cover all day long. 3-up armor save on these guys is not hard to achieve in the right circumstances. And then they can fight off more than you would imagine, which is nice. So yeah, like I agree with you, but you tend to see this, and I think this has been a really good like thought exercise for people at home. You generally tend to see this happen when people start writing lists for any army book. And like we've said, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we talked about, but its inefficiency is just so high compared to stuff internally. That's the thing that this showcases really well: internal misbalance, was opposed to something like. What's well internally balanced in your opinion as a book?
What's what? Oh, the Seraphon. I really like
internally balanced.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job on it. I think, and also Slaves to Darkness is a great one. Maggotkin now.
So you don't think there's stuff inside Maggotkin, for instance, that's just like absolute garbo, like Beast of Chaos, for example, that doesn't get the light of day, and instead it's just like the Eels is another example of an incredibly poorly internally balanced battle tome.
Yeah. Oh, I've gotcha. Yeah. No, yeah, I'd agree with that. Sorry, I was something else.
Oh.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, dear diary, where is Darren's house coat? But yeah, a really interesting thought exercise.
What?
Where's
My
your house coat? Yeah, we also had a request earlier to see another animal, if we're able to see another animal.
I tried to find Malbec for you, but he's been left. He's been left to his own devices. And I'll get you a rabbit.
Yeah, we would love to see a rabbit. Twitch chat.
Patrons when I go get Pino. Hang on 2 seconds.
I will. I also want to just, while Darren's gone, just want to see how you all are. How's things going? What's going on? How's day 28 going? I know some of you locked down later and some of you locked down before, so I just want to know what's going on. OJ, Sylvaneth book has great internal balance, all shite. Well, but thingies are good. Tree revs, but Tree Lords suck, so. We all want rabbits. Oh, Chris Welfare, nice. Chris, will you message me about coming and doing a show? Because I would like to do a show with you, and I keep meaning to message you. Also, everyone who I don't reply back to messages or I haven't replied to for a while, I'm an awful person. I'm sorry. I just get a little bit caught up.
Can you see Pino?
We can. So cute.
Hello, Pino. He is very cute. And he's in a bit of trouble with the chickens at the moment because we think he's a bit randy. He's not had his balls off. And he keeps charging at them. And we think he's trying to have sex with them. You're trying to fuck a chicken.
With the chicken?
Yeah. Oh, there's chickens there. Look. Can you see? They're just coming in. Can you see? I think that's Ivy and Beatrice.
Nice.
Can you? I can't tell and see them or not.
No, there you go. There's just a chicken.
There they are. Oh, yes, he's trying to have sex with a chicken. Aren't you, mate? Vera, she won't beat up any of the others. We'll have two. Come up. I'm gonna. Get out of my kitchen, you bastards.
Well, so I just Darren's not here yet, so I'll just let you know Lee Brobley's had an amazing idea. Chaos Demons, hadn't even considered it. Lee, what a ledge. Hadn't thought about that at all, and now I'm thinking about it a lot. Just waiting for you to get back, Darren. So obviously, Kadai, Fireborn, are Chaos and Demons, which means that they can go in the Legion of Chaos Ascendant, which is the demon-only subfaction. Like the Chaos Demon subfaction. Yeah, how cool is that?
That's wonderful. Well, that's sexy, isn't it? Because then they have another 5-up after save as well.
Yeah.
Double 5-up after saves.
Yeah, they could have a 5-up ethereal save and a 5-up DPR.
Fuck. With 60 wounds.
Yeah, huh?
I'm going to be... Oh, that's... Who? Yeah.
Lee Bromley. Well done, Lee Bromley.
Bravo, Lee. That's fun.
And then also, Owen Jackson points out, you could also have Be'lakor bringing D3 back a turn.
Fuck, really? Doesn't it? No? Is that true?
Darren, you sounds awful, mate. I can't hear a word you're saying at this stage. It's just like. Blah, 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 blah.
Sorry.
Oh, apparently you
Oh.
can't. You can't. According to Owen.
No, I didn't think so. I didn't think that would be great. That would be cool.
But you can still have the Kadai Fireborn inside the Legion of Chaos Ascendant though, because they're Chaos and Demons.
Yeah, that's really sexy. I like that. Very good.
So that's really powerful, and I would be super into that. That would be a fun list to do. So well done, Lee. Big shout out. We'll do a Legion of Chaos Ascendant list, but with some Kadai in. Ooh, that's a lot of wizard demons that you can stick in now to add that up, right?
Well, and you can put the old thing, can't you? The old what's it called? Hell cannon. That's a demon, isn't it? Hell
Oh, what from
like
what from Legends?
Yeah, fuck it.
Oh my god, that is such a good unit. If someone let you play it at a tournament, you'd be like, "Fuck."
Who's going to stop you?
Oh well, the TO. Well, probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
what do they know? It's got points. Get over it.
Wow. Yes. Okay. And Chris Welfare's pointing out that you can bring D3 Blood Crushers a turn though, so you can make a full Blood Crusher charge army and have a 5+ DPR and return D3 a turn. Is bananas.
Yeah. Owen would like
that,
wouldn't he?
Well, that's what he's doing. I think we wrote a list. We're going to talk about that at some point because he's been obsessing over more impact armies, which has been great. Right, Darren, did you have any people send you a list in?
Yes, but I'm not. I thought we were just going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll just do that then, and then we'll just end it because we're struggling with the net, which is not ours. The Honest Wargamers internet. We have dropped 0 frames in an hour. Fucking victory! Yeah. So that's great news. But Darren, it's been lovely having you on the show and talking to you.
He'll see me. Hang on.
I don't know where he's gone at this stage. I just want to say thanks everyone for being here. It's great. Join us later. Me and Nathan are going to be talking sub-factions again. But we're going to be talking about the fucking elves, which sucks. He's going to get another animal. Nice. Yeah.
What happened? Oh, hello.
Hello, Darren. No, still here.
Oh, sorry, my telly just randomly turned off. Oh well. So shit with technology. I do apologise.
Did you go get an animal? Is that what was happening?
No, my telly just randomly turned off, and then see what had to run and get the control, and Alex has got it in the bedroom.
Right. Okay.
So shit technology. Sorry.
That's fine. Right. Well, thank you everyone for Darren. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you. Did anyone turn up? I couldn't tell.
It's busy. Loads of people here, which is really nice. Some legends in the chat, like Halalex, the Hobby Hobo, Get to the Chopper, K-Dread Hermanista, Rambo Squirrel, Owen, Chris Welfare, big fan of him, Colonel Cabbage,
thanks for turning
War
out.
Master, the Merchant Prince. And you guys should be able to join us every day now with some tip-top quality internet. So please do. Thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. And thank you for everyone who's been watching live. Please drink your water and stay hydrated if you listen to the podcast. Darren, have you got any final things you want to tell to people?
I spent 12 hours painting an end of spell recently. Ouch and saucy.
Wow!
And yeah, it took me so fucking long. I would like everyone to teach me how good it is. There you go. What do you reckon?
It looks fantastic. It looks fantastic.
And that's what I need, because it took over 12 hours to do, and in that time I would have painted 60 skinks, croak, and a slan. So I just need to know that all this time that I've invested in it was worth it because it drove me a bit mad. But there you go. Thank you.
I feel like it was. I want to say a big shout out to everyone for joining us. Thanks so much for doing so. And I'm going to say goodbye to the podcast people now. Goodbye, podcast people.
Goodbye, podcast people, you lovelies.
Right.
Oh, one shout out.
Yeah, go for it.
I've been wearing my Sprites of War t-shirt. I don't know if you saw it. Bless them. Tuggy presented me with this at Crimbobo last year, and it's got this on the back. Can you see this? Oh, can you see that? Okay. My shot.
Yeah.
Can you see it on the list whisperer?
The List Whisperer. That's your new name, Darren the List Whisperer.
So thank you, Scribes of War, for making me an honorary member. That was very kind.
Well, they're all lovely blokes. Absolutely.
They are.
We are now going to go do a raid, Darren. Have you done a raid before?
I saw you do it before. I don't really fucking understand what it is, and I've not got quick chat because I can't do two screens at
Well,
once.
let me explain it to you. Basically, what happens is there's some people who so we've got 63 people watching, which is great. Thanks everyone for joining us. But what we can do is make it so those 63 people can jump over and see someone else who might not have very many viewers at all, and then that normally cheers them up, which is super cute. And one guy cried last week, which was lovely.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. So
I'll jump on Twitch.
So we're going to do that as a group. So I'm going to do that now, buddies. Yeah. Fuck you guys. Fuck you, buddies. So we're gonna do this in the chat. I think there's a couple of options. There's someone playing Tabletop Simulator. But it's Kill Team for Beginners, which is super cute with 5 viewers. Let's do that guy. Do that.
Let's
do that. Glass half dead. It is 40k and it's Kill Team. But I think I've been convinced to play Kill Team today, so we're going to go raid that guy. So when we get in there, say some nice things, make them happy, do some fuck you buddies, and just have a nice time because it's fun. Thanks for joining us, dudes. So I'm going to click it now, so it should pop up, and if you just click join in, so loads of you are ready to raid, just go say some things, ask some questions, do what... just Right, so here we go. Raid. 50 of us. We're going in like the Vikings. So thanks everyone for doing that with us. That was great. All right. I love it when we do the raid.